Good evening. How are you, Dr. Roellke?
I'm very, very fine. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you so much for meeting with us.
My pleasure.
All right. So are you ready for our first icebreaker question?
I'm ready.
All right. So Catherine Hill from Vassar College during Inauguration told us, the audience, to ask about the tie-dye spandex story. And I would love to hear it. Please elaborate.
So the tie-dye spandex is referring to a talent show at Vassar College,
Okay.
which was part of our 150th year celebration.
Okay.
So it was our sesquicentennial, and we had a talent show, and I was the lead singer of the Vector Tones, which was a faculty band, and I created lyrics to celebrate Vassar's 150th anniversary to the tune of Sweet Home Alabama. Instead, it was Sweet Home Vassar College.
Of course.
And my attire included tie-dye spandex, leopard print spandex, some chains, and a wig. And for those that are interested in seeing the performance, you may type in Sweet Home Vassar College Roellke Vassar YouTube, and you'll see it.
I will be watching that after this. I'm very interested in seeing this. So going off of that, can you please tell us the story of this little bobblehead here? I think
Sure.
it's so cute.
So I made 4 simple requests for the inauguration. The inauguration was not about me. It was about Stetson University and about teaching and learning, but I did make 4 requests of the inaugural committee. One was that students be a central feature of the ceremony, because we all are about the students.
Of course.
2, that there be beautiful music played, and there was.
School of Music.
They were phenomenal.
Of course.
The 3rd was that my family have a formal role in the ceremony.
Of course.
So my daughter Emma, my daughter Olivia, and my daughter Julia, as well as my wife Kim, spoke, and I think they stole the show. And the 4th was that I get my own bobblehead. Stetson loves bobbleheads, and I wanted as a bit of a bucket list for me, Chase, and I wanted to have my own bobblehead. Unfortunately, the Rolex bobblehead that was created is stuck on a cargo ship someplace because of the supply chain and transport problems we're having in the country. So my beautiful, wonderful sister and my family created my own bobblehead in advance of the inauguration. It arrived the day before inauguration, and you can see it says Rolex. It's a golf club with the number 7 because I'm the 7th child. And then of course there's an image of me here, but what's kind of cool about this is that there's also, whoops, I lost it there. Can you see it? There's also a masked Rolex, given our COVID times. So thank you for the bobblehead, and only 100 of these will be made.
Of the Rolex?
Not this one. This is a one and only. This is a one and only.
Oh, but Stetson is going to get the chance to purchase a Roellke bobblehead.
That is correct. That is correct.
I'm very excited. I will be purchasing one.
That is correct. So thank you for asking.
Will you sign the bottom of it for me?
I would be more than happy to do so.
So, other question, where did the nickname Rolex come from? Is there a specific story for that?
So, I am the last of 7 children, and we have always used Roellke as the moniker for the family. Like my oldest brother, Rob, for example, his nickname was Roellke.
Okay.
We had a Volkswagen bus growing up, and we called it the Rolekswagen, right? So, Roelks has always been part of the family nomenclature. For some reason, my brother Rob was Roellke, and I'm the youngest. He's the oldest. And the S was added sometime in high school. So it's been my nickname because my last name is hard to spell and hard to pronounce. Roelks is easy.
I like it.
So that's where it comes from.
I like it. Okay, so now we're going to get into the riveting, juicy questions.
Very good.
All right. So what would you consider your biggest achievement in your life?
May sound like a hokey answer.
Is it raising your daughters?
It's my family.
And see,
it's my family.
I knew you were going to say that, and I was talking to my father about these questions, and he's like, well, don't say not including raising his kids, because you don't want to put words in his mouth. And I'm like, but I know he's going to say that.
It's really true. I am exceptionally proud of my 3 daughters. Emma, 27, last year in medical school. Julia, 24, high school teacher in New York City and coach and sustainability activist. And my youngest is Olivia, she's 17. And high school senior and avid equestrian. And so I'm really proud of them. I thought they were fantastic at the inaugural. I was beaming with pride. So that really is. Now, if you ask me professionally, professionally, I think it's safe to say that it's disappointment as Stetson University's 10th president. I didn't aspire to be a university president, but I really feel as though this has been the right match for me and the right time for me and my family. And I hope, to some extent, the right time for Stetson to have secured me.
Well, the campus is not on fire, so I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Chase.
Speaking of doing a great job, what would you consider your strongest character trait, either personally or professionally?
These are really generous questions, and as you know, I've been highlighting the importance of kindness.
Of course, yes.
Ever since I started.
Yes.
Some of that might be viewed as a little self-serving, because I think, with all humility, I will say that I think kindness is probably my strongest attribute.
I would agree.
I really do try to listen to other people's perspectives. I try to stay calm in times of challenge and try to help others. So I say that with humility, but I think kindness is probably the attribute that I'm most proud of, that I think I bring to the table pretty consistently.
And maintaining the humble path, do you think you have a weakest character trait that you're working on that you would like to reveal?
Wow.
You can plead the fifth if you
No,
like.
no, it's a fair question. I think that a weakness might be that because I'm profoundly optimistic, I've been told that sometimes I may not feel the pain that others might be feeling.
Okay.
Am I making any sense when I say that? In other words, because I'm always optimistic,
You think everything's going to turn
it's going to be all right. You know, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I have to recognize that sometimes not every member of a community may feel similarly, that it's going to be okay. And I think that's a bit of a flaw, right?
I can see that.
Right? I'm not saying I should artificially be unhappy or not optimistic, but I should always try to be sensitive to the fact that not everyone has that same optimistic outlook.
I like that.
So that would be the way I would respond
I
to
like
that.
that. So I did read your Stetson biography very closely, and it mentioned fundraising several times. Can you explain to me why fundraising is so important to you?
Well, it's not so much that it's important to me, but it's important to the enterprise.
Okay.
It's important to the enterprise. Every Stetson student is subsidized to some extent, right? Higher education is expensive.
Of course.
We make investments in our physical plant, this beautiful campus. We make investments in the people that work here. And we also certainly provide up to $98 million of financial aid a year to try to promote the very best kind of education that we can. So sustaining that and enhancing that education is costly. So that's why I'm passionate about fundraising, because it really does take a good deal of resources to do this kind of work and to do it well and to support our students who are in need. So that's why I'm passionate about the philanthropic side.
I like that. So, what Stetson policies are most important to you?
Which policies?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll answer it this way, that my background has been as an educator, and I still consider myself first and foremost an educator, even though I have this administrative role and have for some time had administrative roles. So I'm always interested in policies that center on that enterprise, on education. So I'm very interested in curriculum policies. I'm very interested in, because it's one of the three big buckets, compensation policies, right? We spend 60% of our resources, at least, on the folks that work here. So I'm very interested in those kinds of policies. Most fundamentally, what I've done as a scholar has been in the area of educational opportunity. So I'm very interested in policies and procedures that help enhance the equality of educational opportunity. So those are the kind of the passion areas that I've got.
So would you say that those are the ones you'd like to further during your time here as well?
I think that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that we want to make sure that this kind of education is accessible and achievable for a wide range of students, regardless of economic background, regardless of where in the country they may come from or around the world. So accessibility and affordability are passion areas of mine, and I think that couldn't be more timely given the higher education landscape.
Speaking of another passion area, again, reading your biography, and I found urban and environmental studies. Can you tell me what piqued your interest about these?
Sure. Well, the urban piece really comes from my academic appointment at Vassar College, where I had an appointment in education and urban studies. And most of my work at that time was focused around trying to promote the very best form of teaching in urban schools.
Okay.
So teacher recruitment and retention in urban schools, particularly in New York City. So that's an academic area of interest of mine. In terms of the environmental piece, I think it is, the issue of our time.
Of course.
It's the issue of our time, and we need to take care of our planet, and we need to make sure that this place is healthy, moving forward for future generations. And so it's a passion area. It's an academic interest area. I also am very proud of my daughter, who's a sustainability coordinator and runs circles around me in the environmental sustainability world. I'm delighted that we're going to have a project that's going to take place over at the Sandra Stetson Aquatic Center that's going to be in honor of my nephew, Matthew Michael Euler, who was a Stetson graduate in 2005. And it's all designed to enhance the water quality over there, provide research and teaching collaborations between students and faculty, and we're thrilled that it's going to be named in honor of Matt.
That's awesome. So speaking of students, if you could tell the student body one message, what would it be?
It would be to be yourself. I think that is really the most important advice I would give, is to be yourself. That adds to our educational environment. It allows you to be who you are, to pursue the kinds of things that you want to pursue. So be yourself would be the strongest piece of advice I'd like to give our Stetson students.
I like that. What kind of initiatives would you want to put in place for Stetson during your presidency here?
Well, as I said when I was introduced to the Stetson University community, geez, it seems like that was back in November of 2019.
Forever ago.
Yeah, when I was introduced. I made it really clear, and I think I re-emphasized this in my inaugural address, that strategic plans, strategic initiatives, goals and objectives we might develop really should be done collectively and not by a single appointed leader. I believe very strongly in that. So although I may have my own aspirations for Stetson, I think it's through listening, through collaboration, through conversations that we can figure out a way to have shared ownership over our future. There's some obvious ones that I think very few people on campus would disagree with that are certainly on my mind. I would love to see us improve the quality of the first year living and learning experience.
That would be nice.
At Stetson, I think that's really important, and that it means the quality of the residential living spaces. It means the quality of the instruction you receive when you come to Stetson as a first-time in college student. You mentioned the environment. I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we reach our goals of being carbon neutral by 2040. But again, like people ask about presidential legacy, what would you like to have seen happen at Stetson at some point when I
do have a question about that, I will admit.
Oh, very good, very good. And I don't mean to steal your question.
It's okay, you can.
But fundamentally, I hope that at the time that I depart, sometime later on down the road, that the legacy include that he was a kind and empathic leader that listened carefully, that even though we didn't always agree with President Roellke, he listened carefully before acting. And any leader would hope to leave the place in better shape than when they found it. So that may seem like awfully general, but that really is the bottom line. You want to leave the place in a better situation than when you found it. And thankfully, I think Stetson is in a pretty good place. We're in financially sound footing despite the pandemic. Our endowment is performing remarkably well. We've got fantastic students and fantastic faculty. So it's all about enhancing what we've already got.
We have 100 bobbleheads coming.
We have 100 bobbleheads coming, exactly, which are going to be priceless collectibles sometime down the road.
Especially with the signature you're going to give me.
Exactly, Chase, exactly.
So, kind of paralleling your vision, your legacy, what kind of vision do you have for the university, sorry?
Sure. Well, Stetson, as I think about Stetson, and what appealed to me about Stetson as a candidate to become the president, was that I felt that it was deeply committed to bridging any perceived or real gaps between theory and practice.
Okay.
This is an example right here. You're part of the Hatter Network. You're getting a chance to deploy some skills, right, in real experiences. I think that's great. And I think that there are potent learning experiences when you're out actually applying what you're learning in the classroom in real world settings. So I'd love to see us enhance that. I think we have a very strong relationship with the city of DeLand. I would love to leave as a legacy that relationship has been improved and that a two-way street has truly been developed. So those are the things that I'm passionate about, and I know that Stetson is well situated to be able to make those things happen.
Awesome. So what challenges did you face when you first became president and during your presidency, either COVID related or not?
Well, the COVID pandemic really started to hit the United States in late January and early February of 2019. And I was so privileged at that time to be invited by then President Wendy Libby to be part of the planning team, because I was about to become the president in a few short months. So I felt in some ways very fortunate that I was immersed in the community even before I started. Right? And I didn't get a chance to meet everybody, but I did get to meet folks in student affairs, some students, some alumni, and so on. So I felt like I was able to hit the ground running when I arrived officially on July 1st, 2020. Am I getting the dates right here? I don't think I'm getting the dates right here.
It's okay.
I meant to say January, February of 2020 when the pandemic first hit the United States. But needless to say, arriving, and at that time on July 1st, 2020, Florida was in fact the epicenter of the pandemic, not only in the United States, but in the world. In the world. So I thought deeply about what I wanted to try to establish in terms of some guiding principles when I arrived. And that's where the thoughts about kindness, empathy, and shared ownership emerged. So the greatest challenge when I first arrived was, how are we going to operate? That's a pretty pragmatic challenge, right? Are we going to come back face to face?
Because we had just sent everybody home.
Right, we had just sent everybody home in March of that March, and then now we're going to try to bring folks back. So I think we made some critical decisions at that time as a community that I think served Stetson well, and I hope students feel that way. First, we gave students the agency to decide whether or not they wanted to meet with us in person or virtually. We made a similar provision for the faculty. If you are, again, we are the epicenter of the pandemic. Would you like to engage with your classes virtually or in person? If so, what mitigants can we put in place? What kind of testing regimens can we put in place to make sure we can proceed safely? And as you probably know, in that first semester here when I started, about 40% of our classes were face-to-face and about 60% were virtual. Because of the good work we did, the following semester, those numbers reversed.
Yes.
60% face-to-face, 40% virtual. And now, and I'm sure students appreciate this, we're now almost 90% face-to-face, which is really at the heart and soul of a Stetson education and a college experience. And we hope to get out of this thing completely so we can get back to some degree of normalcy. So that was very much front and center, was how do we keep this community healthy and safe? How do we move a Stetson education forward for our students? And how do we do so empathically? How do we do it kindly? And how do we do it via shared ownership?
Yeah, I like that. That was actually a very good conclusion because that's all the questions I have.
Well, I want to thank the Hatter Network. I want to thank you and your team for inviting me. I welcome these kinds of conversations at any time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Would you like Chase to know the official Stetson University presidential handshake?
I would love to know that.
Okay, it goes like this.
Okay.
Like this.
Okay.
Like this.
Okay.
Like this, and this is the most important part. Your eyes kind of have to go up like this, you see. You know what that means?
Everything, all your problems.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. So one more time, let's do it all together.